I came across Kevin from a young guy that I know, and I just happened to see this young guy one day, and he was talking about this guy Kevin Samuels and how he was a godfather and how he had learned this from Kevin and how he had learned that. And he told me, it's like, listen, you need to listen to Kevin Samuels. At the time, I didn't know who this Kevin Samuels guy was, and so he made me look him up. He's like, just listen to an episode. So I listened to an episode, and honestly, I was like, and this is at the time, this was probably 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, when he was speaking to just men. And I had to admit, it's like a lot of the stuff that he was saying, it was interesting, and it was a lot of things that I had never honestly said out loud, but I kind of thought some of the things. But it was one of those things that it's like, who do you talk about this stuff with? And so he actually had the courage to say some of these things out loud to men. And some of the things that he was saying was just, listen, you need to, as men, you need to get your act together. Is that he was basically talking junk to men and basically telling them is that you're being a poor excuse for yourself, and how can you expect anything quality out of your life if the quality that you're portraying to the outside, to the public, looks like a poor self-image of yourself. And basically he was just telling men to straighten up. Now the thing is that I say that he was talking talking junk to men, but was he really talking junk to men, or was he really just trying to tell men the truth? The thing I started to notice about his message towards men was he was just telling you like it was. He was telling you from his experience as an older man. As an older man that has been through, the workforce, that has been through life, and that has been through different circumstances that sometimes younger men don't have a mentor to help them and to give them nuggets about things, as far as like, listen, you can't keep dressing like this and expect people to take you seriously. You're saying you want this money, but would you invest in you the way that you look, and the way that you dress? Would you invest in someone that looked like you and that approached you in the same way? Would you give someone, $100,000 that acted, that dressed, and that carried themselves the same way that you do? And the answer for most people, I think, would be no. And so his message to me, and what it seemed he was trying to portray to men at the time, was you need to up your image. You need to up your lifestyle, your image. You need to up the way that you portray yourself to the world. You need to start paying attention to little things. One, i.e. hair. One, i.e. the types of shoes that you wear. Stop wearing all these Jordans and all these tennis shoes. One, the type of dress and how you dress. And the thing is that if you want something and you are trying to get something out of life, you first have to project it into life. And that's the message that I took that he was trying to portray to men. And as times went on, I did see that he started to change his message to speaking towards women. The thing that I would have liked to have seen, and I don't think Kevin actually had a chance to fulfill the full circle of what it looked like he was trying to do outside looking in, was first you make people upset with you, because you say things and you do things and you have to have entertainment along with education. And with the entertainment was saying some things that was like, man, I can't believe he said that, especially to a woman. It's like some of the things that he would say, and they weren't necessarily crude, but it was just like, man, I thought that, but I never would say that to a female. But it was the entertainment part that made you listen, but also sprinkled into the entertainment part was education. And to be honest with you, I think he was a master of that. The thing that I saw in just the transformation of him throughout the years was he grew into this. He started with an online persona that was nothing like what he ended with, unfortunately, his demise. And the neat thing that I noticed about what he did was even though people joked him and people made fun of it, is that he left a lot of his old stuff up. The old pictures where he looked like, honestly, a cornball, and some of the old stuff, he left it up. And I believe there was a reason for him doing that, was to be able to show, especially when you're talking to people who are trying to get somewhere, to show is like, hey, this is where I started. So there, as long as you're making progress, it's like, I started looking like this, but now you see me as this. And so you can see the progress of Kevin throughout the months and throughout the years of his online persona. And then also there were some pictures that were out there, from his high school and things like that. But I think he was a genius in that, because it let people see the growth. It let people understand is that I didn't come out talking like this and looking like this and almost looking, to be honest with you, to a lot of people as being just perfect. That there was a process in it. There was a process in my growth. And I think that he was trying to portray that to not only men, but he had also started to portray that to women. I think he was in the process of, like I said, the entertainment versus the education, is that he was still trying to draw in the audience from both sides. The men, when he was speaking just to the men, the women weren't listening. The women were just kind of, he wasn't even on the radar. But when he started speaking to women, not only did women start listening, but also men were listening too. The one thing that I think, to a degree, that may have been missed, and this is why I said he may not have had a chance to fulfill his full circle, was I did see women starting to, in the comments and things, starting to change, starting to be like, even though I don't like the way that he's saying what he's saying, it is making sense. And with the men, I could see in the comments a lot of times where men were rooting Kevin on, and were rooting on him just getting down on the women and saying, the things that he said to the women. But I don't think he had made the turn yet. One of the turns that I feel like that he was possibly going to make was once he had a large enough audience, because on both sides, I feel that he was telling men you need to level up, but he was also telling women, it's like, you need to level up and be realistic with your standards. But the standards that the women need to be realistic with, the men need to level up to meet those standards. And so trying to tell everyone is like, listen, you don't have to be this superstar. There's nothing wrong with being average. But with being average doesn't mean that you can't still strive to be better than the day before, and to strive to try to be better than average. I feel that given more time and giving more exposure, that Kevin was going to be able to fulfill this circle of getting people on both sides, especially in the black community, getting black men and black women to start to come together, to realize is that on one side the expectations are unrealistic to a degree, and also on the other side with the men's side is that the standards are too low and you need to raise your standards. And I feel like that he was full circle trying to get those two to come into balance with each other, because it feels like on the women's side the expectations were up here and the standards on the men's side were down here. Now I understand that he got into some real topics that, to be honest with you, he would talk about the way the men dressed, and then the men's occupations, and then of course how men carried themselves. But he also talked about some real things on the women's side, about by the unrealistic expectations about the money that they were expecting men to make, that they wanted to be with. And also, to be honest with you, the thing that you never can talk to a woman about is weight. And so he did cross those lines, which made the entertainment part of his show, in telling people just sometimes point blank, your expectations are way further than what you should be expecting of yourself. Not saying that you shouldn't have expectations, but sometimes like you can't be shooting for the moon like that. I and then with the education part was is that as he's speaking to someone online or a caller that is called in, it helped other people, I believe, reflect on why they're listening to what he's saying to that person. It's like, man, you can't say that. Like I wouldn't say that, but it help them to reflect on their own life. Like, and maybe my expectations may be a little too high, and I maybe just a little bit overweight. And as a guy, for me, I had to up my game just a little bit. It's like, am I dressing for the type of success that I'm expecting? Am I dressing when I go into meetings for the expectation that I want coming out of the meetings, or am I because of the way I'm dressing having to start just off of point blank, just first appearance, starting lower and having to work my way up by my presentation and how I speak and what I'm offering versus already starting up here with my appearance. And so I would have liked to have seen more women come up on the platform and tell what Kevin meant to them. I I hear a lot and I heard a lot that Kevin's legacy will live on, but I will be honest is that unless the legacy is also carried on by women, by women and men, then I think it's going to start to seem maybe a little one-sided. That Kevin was a champion for men, but he ragged on women, and I don't think that's what he was trying to do. I don't think he had a chance to finish full circle what he was trying to do with the women part. I think once we would have had a chance to see the full circle of it, is that the plan that he had here, and he was thinking 10 paces ahead of everyone, is that once we'd have been able to see his full plan, is that he was going to try to bring everyone together with making them upset, but then also giving them some education along with that. Because I heard him say many times is that we as black people have to protect our image. And the image that a lot of us are putting out there is not necessarily a positive image that anyone would want to be a part of. And we are responsible for trying to change our image. And the image that the media puts out a lot of times about our culture and about black society isn't the greatest. And I think one of the things that Kevin was shooting for was, I had heard him speak a couple times about, owning a media company, and being able to take control of the black image that's put out there. And growing up, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of things in the black image weren't positive, especially what's been portrayed on TV. I think that his ultimate plan was going to be that, along with, like I said, what it seemed like he was trying to do was bring couples together. You can see the void over the last year from Kevin being gone and being out of the manosphere. One of the main things that he had was not to beef. And I can see the void in the manosphere of all these men that have problems with each other now, and all these men that are beefing. All these black brothers that talk junk about each other and beef. And the thing is that with us being so divided, and especially putting out the image of being divided online, it doesn't help for the ultimate cause of us moving forward in a positive direction. Together, I mean, we can move forward and do great things, but divided and this dog eat dog it's not a good image for us. I understand other groups may do it, but being in the position that I think we are as far as a community, is that we need all the positive we can with our community and with each other. I would have really liked to see what Kevin would have said about the whole Chris Rock and Will Smith thing, now that Chris Rock has had his time in the spotlight to redeem himself to a degree about what happened. Because I would have liked to see if Kevin would have said, "Now it's time to maybe put this to rest. Now it's time for these two brothers that are ultimate like impressions in the black community, but also not just the black community, but in society as a whole." If he would have said that it's time for these two brothers to now come back together and to show how you can overcome when someone has slighted you. And so I would have liked to have seen some of those things. There are things, like I said, the education part, I mean, the entertainment part that Kevin did with, with the women and sometimes with the men. I did like some of that, but I was starting to spend more towards the educational piece on how he saw to work out and how he saw resolutions to different problems that he saw in the world and in the media, because that to me was more of the image part, and more of what kind of showed what may have been his ultimate plan for everything. But anyway, I did like the special. I did like the tribute. I mean, and I there are things, like I said, I wish there would have been more things as far as women telling what Kevin meant to them, and so that picture, that not just the men picture, but also the women picture. So it would be more of a kind of a rounded view of what it looks like he was trying to do. But all in all, I think the void of Kevin being gone for the last year has greatly shown itself, because there's no one that I've seen so far that people can look up to say, almost like, when the situation happens, how would Kevin handle this? And the ultimate, and I don't want to say possible, limitation of the manosphere at some point in time would be, just these creators that have so much potential, that have so many people that look to them, that they're starting to divide more and divide people more rather than bringing people together. And I think Kevin was that beacon that said, listen, I don't beef. I don't beef. Regardless of what's going on, I don't beef. You cannot like me, but I don't beef. And with me not beefing, there's nothing else pushing back on this negative, is that at some point in time, can we all just come together? Image means things. Image in the black community means a lot. And I think that void has shown itself over the year. But anyway, I did like Kevin. I like Kevin more for the things he had to say to the men versus the women, because I think it was a very, very good educational piece. But I think there's a void here and now that hasn't been filled.